hopefully being something that people really rely on. So in Italy and other places, we have many, many thousands of virtual machines that are now running as VMware View. But what's been very exciting is to really see how people are using it, not just to make Windows more manageable, but for new environments. And as you know, we've been releasing clients for a lot of different devices. I have to say, we haven't published our announcements yet on this, but the View for iPad is really taken off all over the healthcare business. And this is one of my favorite areas to watch, because it actually is making patient interaction better for doctors. So in the US particularly, a lot of hospitals have standardized on this because medical software moves even more slowly than enterprise software. It takes a long time to get it certified, and it's a lot of work. So whether it's MRIs or X-rays or how drugs interact with one another, these are all Windows applications still. But doctors would like to be able to be in front of their patient and showing them their MRIs and showing them how drugs will interact with each other. So this has really become the way that doctors now work with their applications. They can take these applications in front of patients, but at the same time, they know all the data is staying safe in their own data centers. So one example of where this is headed, you'll see a number of good announcements of our next versions of View shortly, but some of the things to make sure you know, our top focus is on how you lower the cost of storage in a View environment. That is the dominant cost. Server memory becomes costly after that. But we're focusing on lowering the cost overall, and then continuing to do quite a bit of work to make sure that the graphics interaction is excellent, whether you be on a wide area network or a local area network. We're pretty good right now, but continuing to focus on that. And especially as things like Windows 8 begin to become popular, we want to be ready to give a great experience there. So that's really where we start in this overall vision, is making Windows a little more modern and giving you access from anywhere. Now the fun things that we've been talking about are really around, okay, now that we have Windows coming through this, and now that we have software as a service through this, how do we focus on data? And I think everyone knows data is, I think it's the core of everything we do around security and around where things run. So I've been very excited to be using something called Project Octopus. And has anyone here heard of this yet? Fairly popular. So it's something I'm using right now. It's in a private beta, closed beta right now. I'm sure several people would like to try it out relatively soon. But it is actually a very, very important part of our strategy. And I always talk about this as Dropbox for the enterprise, because it lets people understand what's going on there. But it is really two things. It's the server that gives you policies and lets people have access to their own data. And then it's a set of clients that work on a lot of different devices, whether it be Android or Apple or Mac or Windows, and letting you have a very seamless access to your files. And the important part, I think as people know, is how it synchronizes and how it lets you share your files across the enterprise. So synchronized means that if I make a document on my iPad, it will magically show up on all my other devices when I want to get there. And sharing means that if I actually want to collaborate with a colleague on a document, that it will automatically be allowed. Now the big problem with today's file sync and share systems are twofold. The first is that they are always residing in the public cloud, and a lot of companies would like data to stay on site. And then the second thing is that they don't have the rich policies that people are used to working with in the enterprise. For instance, making sure that people no longer have access to files when they leave a company, making sure that certain files can be destroyed after 30 days. Certain things like that are pretty key to this. So really think about that as what we're delivering with Octopus. It will be something that can run on your own data center or something that you could consume from a cloud partner, and then it will have rich controls in place. Now the rich controls are something that I think are quite interesting. I won't go into a lot of detail here right now, but I really have heard a lot of interesting results here. And I want to call out something that is a little subtle but important. I get told all the time that the reason people like to use Dropbox or Box.net is so that they can avoid IT altogether, and they have no controls to worry about. So when I go and I talk to IT departments about when they deploy this, if they deploy it and require you to always use VPN and have no access to anything, people will still skip this. So it is a combination of having the technology and then the right policies for the right groups. And that'll be a very key part of this. And then the last thing I just thought I'd call out and give you an update on, I have to say I've been talking about this project as well forever because we've tried a lot of versions of it. And that is really, what are we going to do for mobile phones and tablets as we head forward? And really the concept has been very interesting. It has been around how can we apply some of the things we've learned in virtualization, but to our mobile devices. And maybe a quick show of hands, has anyone heard of Horizon Mobile or MVP so far? A handful of people? So this is the much discussed topic of bring your own device, or what you also hear about as employee-owned IT, these trends that mean I no longer want to get my phone from my IT department. I'd rather go out and buy my favorite device, bring it into work, and have it work. And on the flip side, it's about the poor IT department who has all of these employees coming in with new devices, but no way to control them, and no way to know who is on their network or what software they have installed. So we got to thinking about this and thought virtualization kind of worked in the x86 laptop space for this. Why not apply it in this world? And it's taken us a very long time because we've changed strategies here quite a bit. But the model we have now announced, and that will be shipping next quarter in Europe actually, is called Horizon Mobile. And the idea is that I buy my phone and I bring it here. And in fact, I did bring a phone, but I left it in the car. But the idea is that I have my phone, I've gone here and gotten all my music, I have Facebook, I have all of these things on it. But I also want to use that same device when I show up at work. So the model is actually very simple. You go to the App Store, you download VMware Horizon Mobile, and it is an application that installs today just on Android. And then I bring that device to work, and I tell my IT staff what my phone number is. Over the air, they will push a work phone. So it is an entire Android stack, exactly like normal Android. And the difference is that that is running in a virtual machine, and it's completely isolated from your home life. Now, the only thing that you can do within that work virtual machine is access your work app store. So the enterprise is allowed to choose specifically what applications are allowed to run in the enterprise. And that makes them be able to do things like whitelisting and other important aspects of choosing apps. The second thing about the work phone when it's running is that it's completely encrypted on the device. So the entire virtual machine is encrypted, and all communication over the network is automatically routed through a VPN. So actually, I have to say I'm using this. I love not using an actual VPN. I don't have to put in numbers. It's automatically connected whenever you've logged into this corporate phone and used your password. So think of it as I think of it as a safe corporate bubble that lives on that device. And this is actually the user interface when you're running in the corporate world. You can, of course, customize it. But it's very easy to switch between the two. And we're doing interesting things such as when you could have two phone numbers. And when your work phone number rings, it opens up your work VM. When your home number rings, it would go to the other one. And really making it very intuitive. And now the number one question I always get asked about is, does this affect battery life or does the performance look good? And so that's what we've been working on for 3 years, is making sure that there is no noticeable overhead when you're running this product. So you're going to see a lot about this so far. We just announced in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress that Telefonica will be shipping it in Europe in the second quarter, so very, very soon. And I haven't heard them publicly announce which countries they'll be doing first, but it'll be Europe first, and then the US will be following with our first partner there, Verizon. And meanwhile, what we're doing is working with all the handset manufacturers to make sure that it will run on all of them so that you do get your choice. So I'm quite excited about this. I think it's, it will be a good project and a good product for a number of use cases where particularly regulated companies want to keep data separate. But you can also be assured that there are a lot of other projects going on at VMware right now on other ways to bring your own device and have them safely accessed. And if you've heard about things like App Blast, that's where it really comes into play as well, how to consume applications left and right. So I believe that's a good way to end this morning's discussion, is maybe a quick look again at really thinking about what we're trying to do to change where and how you run things. A big focus on how people will write tomorrow's applications. And then lastly, how do we get to a world where you can get access to all of your applications and all of your data from whatever device you happen to be on. And I always laugh because people ask if we're going to run out of things to do. But if you take this as your agenda, I think we're never going to be finished. And it'll be quite an interesting time ahead there. So with that, maybe I'll open it up to some questions.
Yeah, questions.
Sure.
So you talk about security policy attached to virtual machine. So the infrastructure, the cloud should enforce this policy to this machine. And I see also the human side of the problem. Like machine should be aware where it's running because might be some cloud will not be compliant with the policy.
Right.
Machine containing European data, let's say, migrating to Amazon, the machine itself should be able to be, to be aware of what is running. So it's like,
Yes.
okay, I'm running here. Do you think this is an aspect that will be considering?
Yeah, very good question. If you couldn't hear, it was do the built-in security controls, can they recognize either data or what applications are running to recognize when you're in compliance with laws? So I'll step back a little bit. I heard from a lot of European customers the day that the US Patriot Act sort of came into being was the day that public clouds were going to be springing up all over the world because no one would want their data to be somewhere that had certain laws on it. But even if you go to different states or different countries, following the data is one of the most important aspects of choosing where you can run. So it's actually where you can run as well as what security policies are in place. So we actually have, RSA's announced a product that builds directly into vSphere today that uses something called DLP, Data Leakage Prevention. And what this does is their particular version scans the hard drive and recognizes, if you wanted to, it recognizes anything that looks like a credit card number or in the US, a social security number. And it will alert you which virtual machines have private data or data that you care about in them. And then give you a report about where they're running so that you could correlate that with what security policies are in place and where it actually is running. And a number of our other partners, some of which are here, will be making announcements about that as well. So the idea really is, for me, is that is the core that everything an IT department has to do, is understand where things can run based on either government laws or on their own laws that are running there. A very important part of the product strategy though. And I should say there are two types of data that people always look at. It's called data at rest, which means things that you have on a hard disk, or data in motion, which means an email or a network packet going out that has some of this data in it. And why I get so excited about security in the virtualized world is that the virtualization platform sees everything. I mean, it sees everything. So we have full access to that. And traditional vendors have had real challenges because they might just build a network device, a bump-in-the-wire device, as they call it, that is able to see every packet, but it's very hard to determine what is coming through these packets. They spend all of their life trying to figure that out. But when you have this vShell layer, what I'm seeing very interesting startups and even big companies building are security tools that combine knowledge of the network with knowledge of what's going on in a virtual machine. And that is really the most important challenge for security vendors, is understanding the context of all these different things running. So maybe a longer answer than you wanted, but it is a very, very core part of what we're trying to do.